Tony Kinnett.
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 Host of the Tony Kinnett Cast.
Let's get down to business.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening. I hope you are ready for a night of choices, because this is the thing that the Democrats are currently facing after a tumultuously terrible election in the presidential for 2024, and not doing so hot in the Senate either, the House a little bit closer. A lot of Democrats are feeling as though there's kind of got to be a choice that's made. It's finally time. We need to have this discussion. At least that's what individuals on the left have said consistently on social media and articles from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times, all the way over to many of the traditionally left-leaning legacy media outlets. It's just not working, the strategy that was applied either on the Joe Biden side or the Kamala Harris side. So where do you go? What are the options? Gretchen Whitmer and like the weird kind of pseudo-lesbian weird Dorito communion ceremony? Oh, that ain't it. A lot of people don't like Jared Polis in Colorado. He's kind of on the more moderate side, if that's kind of what you want to call it. And then you've got on the far out to the west, far out to the left side, Gavin Newsom, who we'll be talking about just a little bit later. The bench isn't very deep. All right, you got Josh Shapiro and, well, it looks like either John Fetterman or David Hogg and AOC. And gee whiz, that's quite a choice. So Senator John Fetterman, who has been the surprise of the decade, has now come out and said what a lot of Democrats have said in the wake of Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden. And well, while I don't necessarily agree with the statement, I think that this is a kind of middle of the ground approach that Democrats could flock to. This is Senator Fetterman today.
It's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases, and we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents.
So this is the same kind of thing that Charlemagne, the rapper, said on The View and got a lot of pushback for. This is the same kind of thing that we saw in some of the minor Democrat, kind of slightly to the left of center pundits right after the election. The idea is that, look, why don't we try to do the status quo antebellum thing where we say, you know what, no more politicization at all. And a lot of individuals, might make the case, well, then you shouldn't have started poking the bear in the first place. Again, the classic Mitch McConnell clip that I will constantly play from 2013 when he warned Democrats very, very explicitly.
Say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
That is certainly a thing. But on the left, though, you do have individuals who are saying, all right, maybe we just kind of go back to actually pushing some kind of policy. Then there's David Hogg, who went on CNN today to discuss his possible run for the vice chair of the DNC. And
lives, and of course, a Parkland school shooting survivor. David, good morning. I'm so grateful to have you.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about this. Are you thinking about running for this leadership post, and why?
Well, honestly, I'm considering it because I think that, one, obviously, I think we need a new generation in the DNC. If this election has taught us nothing else, I think we need an intergenerational coalition as a party. But I've spent the past 2 years or so traveling around the country, working to elect young people and talking to everyday people, knocking on doors in every swing state that you can imagine, and some very red states as well, from starting out in Alabama to places like Texas and Virginia and everywhere in between. And the thing that I've realized more than anything is that we have a number of problems in the party, but I think the main one overall is that we would rather live in a comfortable delusion than an uncomfortable reality.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. So David Hogg has decided to run even further to the left. What we really need to do is really put all of our chips in on the youths. Maybe another Taylor Swift endorsement will do it. By all means, keep going. And the idea that he's might be running for the vice chair of the DNC, and that Politico had reported there might be a chip throwings in behind AOC for president. Those are certainly two very distinct choices in the Democrat side of the aisle. And by the way, this isn't just a one-off thing with David Hogg and with AOC. The Young Democrats of Arizona posted this letter onto social media recently, condemning any kind of a moderate. And this is sent to us over by Clay Robinson out in Arizona. This is from Armoni D. Jackson, president of the Young Democrats of AZ. I believe the Democratic Party as a whole needs to undergo a deep realignment and reevaluation of its values and practices. So far, yeah, there's a lot of people who feel that way rather strongly. While we often position ourselves as the champions of civil rights, equity, social justice, the Democratic Party must confront an uncomfortable reality. It continues to perpetuate the structures of systemic racism in ways that many are either unaware or unwilling to address. And then this is the second sentence the first sentence in the middle paragraph is my favorite. Furthermore, the Democratic Party seems to be shifting further toward the center, to the point where some of our positions are starting to resemble those of Republicans. This shift is not only confusing, but it is also beginning to have real consequences. And he then kind of creates this call to action, complaining that what the Democratic Party really needs is to go even further to the left. It's just wonderful. By all means, go ahead and do this, please. Super duper. I mean, it has worked 0 out of 100 times over in Europe, where everything's over further to the left. It's one of the reasons that France is currently on fire, is that Emmanuel Macron sided with the far left party instead of siding with the kind of center to the right, kind of populist wing, big government right-wing party. So, again, just keep trying this stuff by all means. And this rift is not only in the youths, it's in the rest of the Democratic establishment demographic as well. So, for example, this is from Tyler O'Neill, our managing editor currently over at the Daily Signal. Union employees in United Auto Workers, the UAW, are currently striking against themselves. I'm gonna say that again. Union members in the UAW are currently striking against themselves.
Well. How the turntables.
So why are they having this moment of severe strikeage? Well, according to O'Neill, the strikers are accusing the UAW of bad faith bargaining throughout the negotiation process and the retaliatory termination of a union leader. So the UAW is striking against themselves, accusing themselves of being the kind of corporate capitalists firing people and hiring temporary workers and part-time jobs, the same kind of stuff that they're always accusing everyone else of being, which just shows Tagoya. Union leadership has been corrupt, and they still are. So there's a very serious problem over on the left with its institutions, what it's doing, where it's going. But in case you were saying, well, at least the right has got itself put together. Oh, hang on there, Sailor Sam, because the right is currently grappling with something very specific. And that is, a lot of our senators, they suck. Now, why would I say something like that? Well, here's why. Because when Biden was elected, and Biden sent through a bunch of extremely to the left radical, unsuccessful early on in their career, unqualified jokes of individuals to send on through the Senate nomination proceeding. People like, let's pick Susan Collins, voted in favor of appointing like Secretary Lloyd Austin, for example, who ended up, presiding over the Afghanistan disaster that humiliated us on the world stage, cost us hundreds of billions of dollars, and dwarfing both of those two things, costing 12 or 13 U.S. service members their lives. And to add insult to that injury, unnecessarily, there was no reason for those troops to die. And it just ridiculous nonsense now that Pete Hegseth is on the line, and we're doing Brett Kavanaugh 3.0, whatever, that the aim is, well, all of a sudden we have all of these principles, and we really want special, super moderate, pencil pusher, super 4-star brass generals into position. No. And the reason I'm saying no is because the American people are really aggravated of the kind of attitude that we're seeing from members of the federal bureaucracy. So, for example, today, there was a House member and I want to make sure I get this right. This is according to Fred Lucas, who is our chief correspondent over on the Hill. Ronald L. Rowe Jr., the acting director of Secret Service, was the only witness to appear before the very last hearing in the probe into the first assassination attempt on former President Trump then. And things got very heated very, very quickly, and it just became just a big mess. Check it out.
Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the sack of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11.
All right, so here's what's happening in this particular clip. So at the moment, you have Roe, who had used a lot of, President Biden and Kamala Harris went to commemorate an anniversary of September 11th in New York. And Roe basically cajoled his position, status, and power to be right next to Biden in the photos. So here, maybe not at the best time, he is being questioned by a House member. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Here's how this devolved in just a few seconds.
And you were
I
playing
am a
politics.
public servant who has served this nation and
You
spent
won't answer
time
the question.
on our country's darkest
Mr.
day.
Chairman, he will
Do
come to
not
order.
politicize it.
Committee will come to order. I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United
I'm
States
just
Secret
asking you.
Service.
Ladies and gentlemen, the House of Representatives and the bureaucrats. So the House of Representatives may put forward individuals in the committees who ask stupid questions or questions that are irrelevant or questions that don't get to the point. Remember individuals from the House and the Senate asking Mark Zuckerberg about how the internet works? Oh, dear God in heaven help. And then you have federal bureaucrats who lecture congressmen or refuse to answer questions at all. And American people are sick of that. That's one of the reasons that they're aiming for a reform. We'll be back in a second with some more of the quick news roundup. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
IPC.
All right, time for a little more quick news. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast, by the way, especially to our friends over on not just our radio partners, but our TV partners as well. It's nice to have all the crews around that are indeed around. And the reason I start off with a nod to the visual viewers, whether you're tuning into TV or the live stream, is that every once in a while, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of you guys like the quick news roundup segment the best, and I kind of do too. So sometimes we're going to kick over the second segment with a little more quick news roundup, maybe even some of the more video-esque things. So do yourself a favor. If you're listening to this on the radio, first of all, if you're out driving right now, I'm sorry. Get somewhere where it's not frigid, slick, cold, and disgusting. Unless you're tuning in from our station down near Pensacola, Florida, in which case, you lucky, lucky dog you. If you are listening to the radio, go back to this segment later. Find us on YouTube over at the Daily Signal, and you can catch some of the videos that we're about to see because there were some special things happening at the Capitol today. So first of all, to protest the trans case that is currently happening in the Supreme Court on banning gender mutilation on minors, and also to protest the House rule banning dudes with wangs from using the women's room. A bunch of dudes with wangs decided that it would be the best move possible to actually go over to the Capitol bathrooms and hold a dance protest. A dance protest.
Oh!
Those are men.
Got a meeting in the ladies' room.
I don't need this.
I'll be back real soon.
That's what I get for being in the neighborhood.
Okay, so for a group of individuals who claim that this is like the civil rights fight of their time, I got to tell you, I don't really buy it when your big answer to everything is a big dance protest. We'll show them what dance. Like it's a 1980s back to school special. They got to raise money like by Fridays. They'll hold a dance protest. Oh, it's going to be amazing. Fantastic. The pudding brain ideologies on display. So on the outside, our Elizabeth Mitchell, who was on yesterday, was going around the Supreme Court demonstration outside and asking individuals a little bit about, why they were there protesting. And one of the people that Elizabeth interviewed ended up on CNN later, and we noticed a little bit of shenanigans, I might say. So
one day I'm gonna be walking down the street and somebody's gonna come up and like shoot me or something.
That's a really scary thing to be worrying about at 10 years old.
Yeah, that should not be a worry.
Michelle, what's going through your mind as you hear your daughter say this?
It's just hard to hear her say that. And she asked me three questions after she heard who won the election. Are we gonna have to move? Are they gonna take me away from you?
okay, so I can't listen to any more of that garbage because it's all completely and utterly fake, and it's demented people raising a child incorrectly and committing lots of child abuse. So 2 things. Number 1, just to remind everyone, the last couple of shootings that took place involving a trans person, the transgender person was the one holding the gun, not receiving the bullets. So no, to my knowledge, there has not been anyone walking down the street in any state or federal crime report who was just trans and they got shot. No, not a thing. And if you're a parent who lets your kid believe that, you're a bad parent. You are a bad parent if you, first of all, affirm your child's gender transition, like telling a schizophrenic you can also hear the toaster talking. That makes you a bad person. So why do I point this out? Well, CNN, while instead of reporting the news, which they claim to do, instead decided to feed into this nonsense a little more, and all affirm, oh, it's so scary. You must, you're such good parents. They forgot to ask a question that our Elizabeth Mitchell did ask. So amazing stuff here. Check it out.
What motivated you to come out here today?
We're supporting our child, Violet, and her access to the medical care that she needs.
Yeah, we're here for her rights and her ability to be who she is. And she's not going to let anybody silence her, and we're not going to stand in her way.
Brave.
Would it affect Arizona, or do you think?
Which
now here's
we
the
don't
catch.
want to do, but Violet.
So they
comes
talked about
first,
moving,
her
and then
medical
Elizabeth
care and her
asks a
medical
very
needs
key
come
question
first,
here.
so
Check it out.
We'll see what happens.
In what age do you think most trans kids determine that they're trans?
Violet told us when she was 1.5. She's been telling us.
Stop. Their child told them that they were trans at 1.5. The age when most moms are still using months to say how old the kid is. I just want to make this very, very clear. I want to make it expressly clear. First of all, CNN is a garbage publication for not pointing, actually asking that kind of a question. It's important, by the way, if you're actually interviewing someone, to ask qualifying questions to gauge how credible the source is. That's very basic journalism. I mean, literally, there's an Associated Press book I have over here that has basic principles of journalism. That's near the top. Ask questions that determine the credibility of the source you're talking to. So, my daughter has in the last couple of weeks pretended to be a dinosaur, has pretended to be a princess totally different, and also pretended to tell me that she can talk to Daniel the tiger. None of those things are true. I do not reshape her identity around those things and stop buying her clothes and start giving her cow carcasses to eat. That's not a thing. And if you are a parent who participates in this, I don't care whether it's because you're demented or because you think you're doing something, you're a bad parent. You're a bad person because you are contributing to mental illness and abuse. So just stellar stuff going on over in the media today. And by the way, CNN's just really batting 1,000 this week because Jake Tapper actually asked a climatologist today if earthquakes are caused by climate change. Oh, dear God.
Does climate change play any role in the increasing severity of earthquakes?
Oh, my God.
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people are trying to work on that. Sea level change could have some effect on it, but there's really no evidence that it has much effect at this point. But there's a lot of people digging into that question.
Now, see, the climatologist has to be like, I'm sorry, did you just ask if the Earth rubbing like its plates together is affected by the temperature of the atmosphere that's changed less than like 1 degree centigrade over the last 50 years? Like, are you serious? Jake Tapper, ladies and gentlemen. CNN's just doing swell. So not only the Democrats in the political class, but also in the media class, I've got to figure out what they're doing with themselves. We're going to go to awful tweets with Jerry Lopez next. It's the Tony Kinnacast. You know the jingle. It's time for awful tweets where Jerry Lopez, that would be at Indy Spanglish over on X, and yours truly, we look over the submissions you send in each and every week, not just from X, but from all over social media and the media at large. Jerry, I got to tell you though, bud, we might have to redo the jingle. I feel like there's just a little bit more out there than awful tweets to report on these days.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, surprise. We're on video today. Yeah, it's definitely come a long way from just being tweets. We've had Facebook posts. We've had Nextdoor posts for that matter. We've had them from all over the place. So I couldn't agree more, Tony. We need to open it up. We need to represent more of our of the fan base.
Well, we've got some good fan base representation today. So I hope that you guys are ready for just the stinkiest of the stinkers. Let's dig right in. This first one is a screenshot, actually, from a press conference given by Governor Gavin Newsom of California. And he had a little tagline motto on the front of his podium, which is more jobs, lower costs, stronger border.
Yeah, I'm more likely to believe that that's a leftover podium sticker from a MAGA rally that probably happened there on the border than I am to assume that belonged to Gavin Newsom in any capacity, right? The fact that he's even saying stronger border is asinine, right? Like, once again, they're trying to do a complete revamp of what they actually think, but this is a 180. It can't even take it serious, Tony.
Well, Alyssa Milano, she's got some tips for everyone who wants to hashtag resist. She says she gave back her Tesla. She bought the Volkswagen EV. She says, I love it. I'm not sure how advertisers can buy space on Twitter. Publicly traded companies' products being pushed in alignment with hate and white supremacy doesn't seem to be a winning business model. But I think you sent this one over to me. The reply to this tweet is just amazing.
Yeah, so the reply to her saying I gave back my Tesla and bought the VW basically says, listen here, you buffoon. Volkswagen was literally founded by the Nazis and Hitler. You know, so giving back the Tesla does not mean what you think it means.
Phenomenal send. I am going to have to take points off for the German impression. But I'll tell you what, it kind of sounds like Disney evil scientists. So I'll give you a couple of points.
That's the best I had.
We do have to talk about the best that John Harwood over from CNN had. Legendarily terrible tweet. He said back on June 13th, people who insist Biden will pardon Hunter after specifically ruling it out are telling on themselves. They can't imagine someone acting on principle and keeping his word.
Yeah, see what happened was, this is so funny. I mean, the left is just, it's just always cannon fodder, right? Do you remember Nancy Pelosi shut down everybody and then she went and got her hair done, right? Literally, that's when my catchphrase, IBSU not, was born. They give you IBSU knots all day. The left, it never stops to amuse me.
Well, this may be the most amusing post I have seen in ages. I could not believe it. I was sent this from 3 different individuals, and you included, were among them. This is the cover of the Ebony magazine Icon of the Year. This year is, you guessed it, the presidential candidate who lost, Kamala Harris. Amazing. Print it out, frame it. I love it.
I mean, there are a few things funnier than this. They spent the whole campaign telling us she's not really a black woman. She's Indian and Jamaican, and she's on the cover of Ebony now.
I'm just going to point out that if you're going to name an icon of the year, perhaps it's just kind of a hot tip for whatever magazine you're writing for. I don't care if it's race specific or not. I would suggest that you pick an icon who did some winning in the year, not the woman who didn't win even a political primary at any point. I'm just saying, if you're going to pick an icon, maybe somebody who wins be kind of a good start.
A lot of the issues that the left has is they prop up these people who aren't even worthy of being propped up, right? They say there's a race issue, and you get Michael Clark, hands up, don't shoot, which was a farce. So it's like, can't you give us better examples of all these people? Yeah.
So there is one more, and this is actually from this morning. It was just sent to us. This lady named Denise Wheeler, who's just some progressive, angry person, posted a picture of Pete Hegseth, and he's at the 9/11 memorial, and he's kind of tracing the names of the fallen at the memorial with his fingers, and he's holding an American flag, and he is in like swim gear, and she says Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, visiting the 9/11 memorial in his underwear. The Pentagon has nothing to worry about. Our armed forces have longed to be led by a drunk rapist in his underwear.
Wow.
Good heavens. So I don't know if you know this particular bit here is the community note underneath. It says that would be a bathing suit, not underwear. And the photo was taken when Pete Hegseth and former Navy SEALs swim across the Hudson River to honor veterans. So there you go, folks.
Yeah, it's funny how they leave out that part that he literally just left the water to go there. But let them tell the story, Tony.
These people just do not understand active duty troops at all. They don't understand. They do not understand those who have actually. They have no concept of like what regular enlisted and non-brass officers are often like. It's hilarious. Speaking of which, Elizabeth Warren. This is the tweet to end all tweets right here of stupidity from Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren. In 2023, over 29,000 active duty troops were sexually assaulted, including more than 6 in every 100 women in the military. Many service members never report these crimes. The rates of assault are estimated to be 4 times higher. Pete Hegseth must not be the defense secretary.
What? Honestly, I'm offended by that. As a veteran, as a former service member, to me, that's the assumption that we all will commit sexual assault. Like we're Michael Vick's pit bulls or something.
I got one more slight thing wrong with this. In 2023, do you know who was the Secretary of Defense and who still is the Secretary of Defense? That would be Lloyd Austin. You know, the guy who regularly leaves for like days at a time. No one knows where he is. You know who voted to confirm Secretary Lloyd Austin, who presided over all these sexual assaults? That's right, you guessed it, Elizabeth Warren. What the heck does Pete Hegseth have to do with the Biden administration not doing a thing about all of the sexual assaults in as she's citing here in the military? She's never called for Lloyd Austin to be fired or investigated. Okay, well, last and least is Jonathan Last. And we got to save Blue Sky for the last, because only on the Twitter's weird bastardized leftist cousin echo chamber can you get the wildest west of political garbage takes. This is from Jonathan Last. He says, the president does not get to appoint an FBI director. The FBI is an apolitical agency. Every single employee, save one, is a career employee. The director is the only appointee, and he serves a 10-year term for the explicit purpose of making him apolitical. Jerry, I don't know if you know this, but the president does indeed appoint an FBI director. And by the way, notice he then calls the director an appointee at the bottom of the post. Appointed by whom? Mother Mary?
Yeah. I hope they never shut down Blue Sky just because we'll be able to use it every Thursday.
Oh, I'm not done. I ain't done. By the way, he doesn't serve a 10-year term. 10 years is the maximum. It is the limit that an individual can be the director of the FBI. The FBI is, in fact, a political agency. Multiple studies have suggested that the FBI and several of its bureaus are, in fact, very politically motivated in a lot of the actions that they take. And they serve at the request of the Department of Justice, which is also full of political appointees.
Yep.
Oh, whenever the left has an individual that they are just gonza about, then it's totally fine for them to be political. But the minute that Trump suggests that we need regulatory reform in these agencies, all of a sudden it's, oh, the president, how dare the president fulfill what his job is to appoint people.
I just can't believe that after these last 4 years that this buffoon would even say it's an apolitical agency when it's literally been the police for the left.
That's what we talked about earlier on in the show. Even Senator Fetterman, some of the moderate Democrats, which is wild to think that Senator Fetterman is like the standard for the moderate Democrat now. Even Fetterman is now coming forward and saying that Trump needs to be pardoned from politically motivated crimes. And he's like, look, we need to admit that there's a lot of political motivation in prosecutions going on right now. And yeah, he ain't wrong. But as long as the left ignores it, well, they've never learned anything yet, have they?
Man, they'll never learn their lesson, but that's why we got awful tweets.
That's right. Every single week, deliver the very best of the worst here at the internet. Jerry Lopez, take care, dude. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. So a bit of a breaking news out of Canada. The Ministry of Health has just banned 324 additional classes of firearm. And the Minister for Health says that these confiscated weapons will instead be sent to Ukraine as needed. So first of all, Canada has enough small arms, or excuse me, the Ukrainian people have enough small arms. The number of small arms is not the issue as far as arms are concerned in the Russo-Ukraine war. So I know that we don't expect Canada to, have an IQ, but, just here, there, and everywhere. Just thought I would mention that. I do want to make something incredibly clear here, and this is what I like to call the event horizon of the Constitution. There is a phrase that gets said every once in a while about the U.S. Constitution, that it is antiquated, or that it needs to be updated, or that is, as John Kerry says in front of the United Nations, that the First Amendment is, actually kind of in the way. In fact, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said that the First Amendment gets in the way of the government, harries the government. It keeps the government from doing what it needs to do. Hillary Clinton has said the exact same kind of stuff. When the feds, when the members of the institutional class in the media, when the members of the left say that the Constitution is outdated, when they say that the traditional framing of this country, it needs to be updated for the sake of humanity and health and all this other nonsense, this is what their end goal is. Their end goal is to, not because a law is even passed, even though that would be unconstitutional, but if the Constitution is no more, then Congress doesn't matter. By the way, we're seeing this right now in South Korea. We're seeing this in France, and we're seeing this in Canada, with different endings to the story. But if there's no defining constitution that outlines what specific duties may never, ever be taken by a third party, like the federal agencies of the United States or Canada, for instance, then at some point those experts who are qualified to hold those positions are just going to decide one day that you don't have any rights anymore, and they're going to confiscate whatever they want. You will own nothing. They don't care whether you're happy or not owning nothing. And if you say anything, and like in the United Kingdom, you dare to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't import 3,000 migrants illegally here a week from like Zimbabwe, as the immigration data is showing in the UK and other areas of Africa and the Middle East, of which there are lots of individuals who commit certain radical ideologies under Shia Islam, that if they can throw you in jail for that, if you don't have any kind of a constitution that outlines your right, and then the ability to defend that constitution, people pretend that the vote defends the Constitution in the United States. No. The vote does not defend the Constitution in the United States. That's silly. Because if you do not have the ability to exercise force, then your vote means nothing. Your vote's a suggestion. The potency of the ability to make a case is bound by, if you step on my rights, I will bite back. It is why the Gadsden flag is a snake. Don't tread on me because I will bite. And if you don't have a constitution, if you do not have originalist justices which interpret the Constitution the way that the founders intended it to be interpreted, not some magical evolving document over time with peace and love and inclusivity and magic and unicorns and trans children prancing through the bathrooms. If you throw all of that out, then what you get is federal bureaucracy that takes on an authoritarian jackboot and crushes you. You say anything, jail, or you're shot. And we're seeing that right now in the two closest countries as far as political and cultural alignment are concerned to the United States. Those would be the UK and Canada. This is why the Constitution matters. This is why the UK and Canada sucks. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why we should, honest to God, just start smuggling guns into Canada. Or as Trump joked to Trudeau, he said he would make Canada the 51st state. I genuinely do believe at this point that it just might be better just to start like by taking Alberta and then just start moving across Manitoba, just start moving through the country and just taking it. I mean, Pax Americana, Manifest Destiny. Allison, what I think I need is when I start talking in the American imperialism, which is justifiable, good, holy, and there are no problems with it all. I need like the music, like I need like Hail to the Chief or like a very beautiful version of America the Beautiful. Just to like start playing resolutely. You know what I mean? Some things need theme music, you know? Oh, I may have lost her into the beyond. Oh, I didn't have the audio turned on, Allison. Sorry about that. You need theme music sometime. You catch me?
Oh, I understand, and it's ironic because I asked if you wanted me to sing it, and then you muted me. So.
Oh no! So, this is the trouble. So, I have this magical list of buttons in front of me, which sometimes mutes different sources of audio and whatnot. On the last show, because Allison and I teamed up to allow me to go past the radio clock, I had her stuff muted, so you guys didn't hear the outro commercials, especially if you're on TV. People in Milwaukee really don't want to hear Indianapolis commercials. Kind of funny that way. Although I'm starting to wonder if maybe we can get some business for like Indiana businesses up in Wisconsin. Be kind of a good joke. That all said, I'm glad that you offered to sing, Allison. We might have to record a couple of Grand Imperialism Americana soundtracks. I think that Canada should be given every single gun that they can, and honestly, they should just kind of manufacture them in their homes. I'm just go all in. You know what I'm saying? Just get some rights, defend them. And also, they should eat more steak because the soy is clearly not cutting it. I think that'll about do it for this evening. You should check out the podcast. This is usually where we put a lot of our extended interviews and things. Also, we will be back on Monday for more of the craziness as we approach Inauguration Day. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Check out the YouTube channel. Again, if you're listening to the radio or just the podcast, you're missing a whole visual element. You're missing the gorgeous new studio. You're missing all of the awful videos that the producers make me watch. They find the worst garbage ever, and they force me to watch it every day. You could see that. You could see that suffering live. It's amazing. So we'll be back soon with even more of it for you to enjoy. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, and first on 93 WIBC.